How far up off the ground is she?
Like, probably still 3/4 of the way up the ladder.
How tall is the ladder?
Probably about 8, 9 feet. So you're probably a good 7 feet, 7 feet off the ground.
Okay, she's gonna jump off.
There were a time where kings still ruled these lands. War was a game that children played. Hunger and poverty were thoughts that would never cross the mind of even the most downtrodden of citizens. That is a fantasy now, though, something that seems so distant that one has to wonder if it was ever real at all. We used the power of magic if it were a toy, a plaything, and we had no fears that one day that would be our downfall. Not even a second thought that altering the world and the fabric of it as we know it could possibly have any consequences. Though we found out all too quickly that that was not the case. It was only as our magic started to burn the world around us that we quickly realized what we had done, and it was too late. There were those that tried to stop it, but there was also those that pushed even harder to grow even more powerful and push the world into a breaking point that was not able to be recovered. 50 years have passed, but it seems more like a century. Everywhere you went, people used to line the streets. Music and joy filled the air. Now there's only dust that fills the void where those people used to be. It came to be known as the Severance, the day that the world was pushed too far and would no longer hold back its wrath. Earthquakes shook for what seemed like days. Forests sprouted up around us and reclaimed what was rightfully theirs. The seas became acid and washed over the plains and purged everything in its path. Though I wish that were the worst of what harm we had caused ourselves. The boundary between our world and others had been worn so thin that things began pushing its way through. With no other options, I sought out others from worlds that are not our own to hopefully find a solution that might work. It's a dangerous gamble that I can only hope pays off, because if it doesn't, we're all doomed. So, our players have been transported through to a distant land that is not theirs, into um, a almost barren, if you will, caldera, and they're kind of sitting, getting a lay of the land, and getting ready to set out um, towards this town that they um, were told needed help by the person that brought them all there. They spent some time kind of getting their bearings and looking around, and the world is very ashen as far as the dirt. It's almost sandy. Trees are all what seems to be kind of scorched and um, just sucked of all life. And they have no idea what they're about to see as they walk out into the world, but they're here now and they're ready to go. They begin their trek a few hours, they know, ahead of them, and they start their time wandering through mountain passes. And you guys can all see above you that the you can see cracks of the sky as it kind of peeks through some of the earth that's kind of coalesced over top of you. And it's about mid-afternoon, so you can kind of see that the sun is above you, and it's pretty warm compared to what you guys are used to. Not a whole lot to keep the weather at bay as far as trees and plants and things. So the weather is pretty aggressive here. So it might be a little bit warmer than what you're used to. But you guys just kind of trek through, and if there's anything that you guys have questions about as you're walking, if you want to know what you're kind of looking at, if there's anything that you think of that kind of just pops into your head as we're wandering, just let me know. The man in front of you that's leading the way, he's probably only a little bit over average height, maybe 5'7", 5'8". It's hard to tell because he hunches a lot. He's got longer, dark robes on, very earthen colored, but they're not made from a material that most of you guys would be used to. Coming from different places, it looks like this is very naturally made, but it looks very dirty and grimy and not very well taken care of. He wears a hood, and he's kind of got a little bit of facial hair, but mostly just stubbled and white. He looks human from what you can tell. He hasn't kind of revealed himself, as it were, but from what you can tell, his features appear to be human at a first glance. So you guys
Since I
go ahead.
since Orlo does like connect with nature, is there any way I could roll like a perception check or anything and see if I notice anything that would indicate that he has anything that isn't human about him that I notice?
Go ahead and roll a perception check, and I will see what you come up with.
No. 4.
4. Yeah. From what you can tell, you kind of look him up and down. You kind of try to assess how he's moving, maybe kind of how he, if there's anything that would indicate that he is in any way not what he is kind of showing himself to be. And from what you can tell, he looks completely human.
Okay. And then I just kind of keep that to myself and keep my head down. I don't really have anything to say to anybody at this point.
Okay. So you guys kind of wander through these trails and passages for a little while, and after probably about an hour or so, from what it seems, it's kind of hard to tell how much time has passed because you can't really see the sun, and obviously watches and things of that nature don't exist. So you kind of just go with the flow. You have an idea of what an hour or so feels like, so it's about that kind of time. And at this point, you kind of notice that you've been walking up a little bit of a crest of a hill for a decent amount of time now. And as you kind of crest the top of this, you can see that the land kind of has started to open back up, and it kind of flows down into a valley below you. And um, from what you can see, it's kind of difficult to see far because it's very dusty and there's a lot of dust storms and things of that nature. So your vision is limited, but from what you can see, it is very barren. It it resembles a desert if you guys would be familiar with them, but it looks like there should be things there. It looks like this was a land that was full of people and things at one point. You see there's indications of natural terrain and things that would say that there was trees and life at one point, but it just looks like it was just ripped out of this place and just kind of covered with the sand and dirt. Off in the distance, you can see like a couple of maybe caravans roaming, but not um, very close knit together, and it looks like they're traveling as one. And you can see a very small town in front of you guys, probably maybe another half hour, 45 minutes walk away, but you can kind of see it down off in the distance. This old man kind of turns to you and looks and kind of just motions with his walking cane down at this small kind of town, walled town that you see, and turns back and says, "That's where we're going. Uh, we're almost there now." And he kind of looks up, and it's starting to kind of get a little bit darker. And he goes, "We should probably hurry as best we can. We don't want to be out here outside of the walls. That is, at dark."
So, what happens after dark?
Oh, nothing in particular happens after dark, but a lot of the creatures decide that that is a time when they like to roam, and I'd much rather not deal with them this evening. I'm very tired, as I'm sure you all are from the travel.
And then Orlo kind of thinks to himself, like he's wandered around, he's been through things, and he just kind of thinks to himself, like being out after dark really isn't an ideal situation. So he's just like, he just says to the group, I think we should listen to the old man and get a move on.
Yeah, Elladan just silently nods.
Flo will say, I will bring up the rear. And his head is on a swivel.
Wyatt is just gonna kind of like instinctively stick next to Flo and be like glancing behind them and follow everybody into the town.
So you guys make your way down towards this town, and you can you're a little bit above it, so you can kind of see into it, but it does not look like there's many people moving around. It doesn't look like it's very active in any way. It Every once in a while you maybe might see a person or an animal. You're not quite sure, especially from the distance, what you see moving in the town. You can just see very, very little movement in general. Probably about early dusk, you make your way to the front gate. There's a guy kind of standing up on like the parapet of the gatehouse, kind of looking down, and he sees the man and he recognizes him immediately. You see him kind of stiffen up a little bit as he sees the rest of you because he's not familiar with who you are, and he kind of looks out and he kind of ducks down back a little bit, but down behind the wall, and you see him kind of maybe almost, you don't know if he's fiddling with his weapon or something like that, but you see that he's moving behind it. Uh, what, who are all these people? What are you doing here? And you see the man in front of you kind of just raise his hand, and they're fine. They're with me. Please, if you would, open the gate. We don't want to be here after dark. Just nods. And you see him, oh, yeah, yes, sir. And he kind of just reaches over and pulls the gate lever. But you see him after he does this, he waits a moment, as you guys all come inside, and shuts the gate behind you. But he does come down to kind of meet you all. Who are all these people? Where did they come from? And he kind of looks especially at Shin, Flo, and Orlo, because you're not commonplace as to what they would be used to. Elves and dwarves, things of that nature, sure. Not super weird, but you guys are definitely standing out of the bunch. And he kind of, especially at you, Flo, he looks at you and goes, I haven't seen one of you for, oh God, I have no idea. We have scrolls that I've seen, but I mean, I've never actually seen one of you in person.
There are more of me in this world?
There used to be.
What happened?
I no idea. I mean, I can imagine that some of them must turn into scrap at some point, but I haven't seen the likes of you in, like I said, since school, mostly.
He's as visibly distressed by this as he can possibly be. He just blinks a few times and turns to look at the fortifications of the city.
Are you looking for anything in particular?
It's just looking to see what condition the walls are in.
Give me a perception check, Shin.
I believe in the heart of the dice. Yeah. That's a 17? Yeah, 17.
Okay. So, being a fighter, being familiar with, some tactics and things of that nature, you can tell that the city itself was initially designed pretty well. It looks very well fortified, but over time, there's definitely some wear and tear. The walls itself are mostly, a mixture between, mud and rock and stone. very little wood to be had, especially in this area. But as much as they can kind of cobble together to make at least decent walls, it looks like they're big enough to keep creatures and things like that out. But as far as a siege or anything of that nature, it wouldn't last 5 minutes.
I was just curious how many like people are around us. Is it just us and the guard and the old man?
At this point, yes. And from what you can see, it doesn't look like there's anybody kind of wandering around or anything like that.
I just kind of lean over to Elladan and I'm just kind of like, I haven't been to many towns, but this doesn't really seem like one of them. It seems a little deserted. I think we should probably just keep our guard up, and you're just as quiet as I am, so I'm assuming you're just as suspicious as I am of everything that's going on. So let's just kind of keep our eyes peeled, especially for this old man. He seems important.
Definitely something's off about this situation.
Laya would like to know how attractive the guard is.
He's moderately attractive. He's pretty well built. He's kind of dirty, but you kind of are sensing a pattern of that at this point already. Not a whole lot of running water, not a whole lot of super clean buildings or streets or anything like that. So, but he's definitely got, a nice build, very kind of attractive face.
Okay, so Laya's gonna like not walk right up to him. Like she's leaving a little bit of distance, but she'll approach him and do like a very formal curtsy and introduce herself and say, "Hello, I'm Laya."
And you kind of see him. He like is almost taken aback. And he kind of stumbles backwards a little bit and kind of just tries to bow to the best of his ability, and he's not very good at it. But he kind of looks at you and he's uh, hi, hi, I'm uh, hi.
Mood, but also she's just gonna like kind of giggle at him a little bit and just like turn back and like very, I don't know what word I'm looking for. She has a very like bouncy kind of walk. And just goes back over to Flo and like puts her arm through his.
And as you the rest of you see as she kind of turns around, he like kind of like tries to readjust himself a little bit. He's just and he kind of puts his hand back on his sword a little bit and just like tries to like readjust, how he's standing. And he just can't. He looks very uncomfortable.
Flo is just eyeing him. Where are the rest of the troops?
Rest. There's only 3 of us, and they're one of them's one of them's in the keep, and well, I guess you can call it a keep. That's what we call it. And then the other one is sleeping.
Orlo kind of like just out of nowhere just bluntly asks who's in charge here.
And he kind of looks at the old man and mostly him.
I kind of just keep my head down, like just kind of suspicious of the old man, just because he's been really reserved in telling us exactly what's going on. So I just kind of nod my head and keep that in the back of my mind for now.
Well, if you don't mind, sir. And he kind of looks up and he goes, "It's getting quite dark. I'm gonna get back up on my post here. If you need anything, just holler, I guess."
And Laya's gonna kind of like wave at him a little bit.
And he kind of like looks at her as she waves, and he kind of like trips over his own feet, and just like you see him just quickly climb up the ladder and just like hide himself.
Elladan's going to lean over to Orlo and say, "It doesn't look like there's really much for us to defend."
I just kind of like nod my head in agreement.
Flo is going to turn to the old man. How many citizens reside in this town?
Well, if you want to call it much of a town, there's 12 of us here, but this is more, I guess, if you will, an outpost for those of us who travel far and need a place to stop in the evening.
I just kind of asked the old man, like, what would you need to stop from? I know where I come from. I don't want to be out at night, but what here are you afraid of?
Well, between the bandits and the creatures and sometimes the things that creep out of some of the wilds, mostly everything.
And there's something about the day that makes it better then?
Well, a lot of the creatures tend to hunt at night. Now, that's not completely saying that they all do, but the bandits themselves specifically like to hunt at night. It's much cooler for them, much easier for them to get the jump on people, because as you have noticed, and he kind of looks around, it's very easy to see for quite some distance.
And Elladan's going to ask, so if this is such a barren wasteland and there's all these issues, why haven't you and your people left?
Well, where we are, as I have explained, this is merely an outpost. I understand that this is a very poor showing for the first thing you see, but there are places where we do survive. This is a place where we used to stay and travel throughout other places that need to remain hidden, as it were. But we have some farm, some what you would call mines, I suppose, but they're not quite for the same resources that you look for. And we get by as we can. It's not easy, that is for sure.
So what's the plan now that we're here?
Well, we spend the night here, give you some rest, give myself time to recuperate as well, and then we will head out first thing in the morning to hopefully make it to our, well, starting destination, I suppose.
And where is this and how far away is it?
It's mostly a day's travel, probably few, I don't know, maybe 80 miles or so. It's a long trek for sure, but very doable.
And what is it that we're going to be doing there?
Well, I'd like you to meet some of these people, kind of get familiar with the area a bit more, and it gives you an opportunity to decide whether or not what I have said is true and assess what it is you wish to do.
I just kind of like nod my head and shrug and kind of go back to being my quiet self now that I have some more information.
That large castle-like looking building, I'm assuming that would be the keep.
That's what they're calling it, yes.
Flo is going to point over towards the keep. How do I climb atop of your tower?
If you'd like, you're more than welcome. There's stairs inside that lead to the roof, up to the parapet. I can show you where they are. That's where we're headed at the moment, so...
And he'll just look to the rest of the group. I will rest outside. I do not require sleep like the rest of you, and I can maintain vigilance while I do.
Sure, that'll be fine. If that is what you wish to do, I suppose. You're more than welcome to take a rest in here with the rest of us.
Laya's just gonna like hold his arm a little tighter and like look up at him very fearful and be like, please be careful.
Was that for me?
Yes.
Both Flo and I are confused. And he's just going to look down. No worries. I can see and hear everything normally, even while resting.
And she just kind of like nods and sighs a little.
And Flo is just going to look at Elladan. And what will you be doing?
That's a good question.
I kind of just lean down to Elladan as like, and I'm just like, I think you should probably come with us.
That would be fine.
The older man kind of ushers you guys forward, and as you walk through the which you can call it a town, I suppose, there's only a few buildings. Most of them are kind of run down, but they're stable. They look like they're frequently used, but maybe not always lived in. You see that some of the windows are cracked, and that there's definitely some boards missing and things of that nature. But there's a couple smaller buildings. Most of them just look like homes. There's the larger keep structure that you guys can see that you're walking towards right now. It's kind of in the middle. And there's one larger building off to the side that he makes note of as you guys are walking in. That is where we kind of use as a community hall, drinks and food and things of that nature. So if that's something that you are in need of at the moment, please feel free to stop in there at any point, and they will do what they can for you.
Laya's gonna like perk up a little bit and be like, "Food? Yes, please."
If you are hungry, please feel free. I'm sure they have something, but I will warn you that it is from here and not your home, so it might be a little different.
And Elladan's going to say, still have beer, I hope, though.
Mead, yes, they make it very, very fresh. It's something that we make sure that we keep our spirits about.
Laya's gonna like look over at Elladan and be like, "Beer? I don't think I've ever had that."
It's an acquired taste.
I'd be much interested in seeing if it's one I can acquire.
The older man kind of continues forward and addresses Flo, and he kind of directs him towards the staircase that will take him up to the top of the tower, and he then makes his way back towards the community hub that he will kind of open up and walk in himself. So if you guys want to go in there before him, or if you guys are just standing waiting for him, the town's not very big, as you saw, so it's not like it would have taken him a long time to get there.
Orlo just kind of stands and just very clearly not going to go in first.
Laya's just so she'll look at Orlo and then look over at Elladan and just kind of like shrug and just like do her little enthusiastic walk into the room.
And I'll follow behind.
Yep, I'll follow as well.
As you much, I am sure, could have imagined, it is not the most well taken care place. It's very kind of dirty and broken down. There are tables and chairs, but a lot of them are kind of broken or missing legs, kind of leaning on things. It's definitely in a bit of a disarray. There are a few people in here, kind of just leaning against things or sitting on the chair. Some of the chairs that aren't completely broken. Over by the side of the wall, there's kind of like a fireplace, like a hearth that they have. They're kind of sitting at and just enjoying the warmth of the cool evening as it started to get darker. And it looks like they're kind of all just kind of drinking out of mugs. You can probably assume what it is. They're all just kind of conversing, and they kind of see you guys walk in, and they just stop for a moment. And you see them kind of like almost sit up alert a little bit. But as you guys kind of make your way in the building a little bit more, I presume that you're kind of walking in just normally, not with any type of intent, yes?
Mm-mm. Yeah, just normal for me.
Yeah, just walking in.
So
walking in, looking
casually.
around.
they notice that you're kind of just there and not there to like do what they probably assume you are, which is steal things or destroy things. So they kind of just sit back a little bit and just relax. And a few moments later, as the older man walks through the door, you see them all kind of almost immediately snap back up as he walks in. They pause for a moment and look at him, and he kind of just waves them back to kind of doing what they were doing, and makes his way over towards you guys. And he reaches over kind of there's like a counter there, and he reaches over and he pulls up what looks to be a couple of glasses and like a big like jug, and starts pouring a few drinks, and he slides them over to each one of you.
Orlo just kind of ignores the drink and looks around for a place to sit. Is there any like usable chairs?
There's a few, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try and sit in one.
So the first one you grab, you're definitely larger than most normal people for sure. So the first one you kind of go to sit on, you kind of give it a little bit of a test, and as you kind of push on it, the seat kind of like gives out and the legs kind of spread outwards.
As long as it doesn't break, I'm good.
No, it doesn't. It does seem to hold you, albeit mostly.
I'm just kind of using my quarterstaff to help support me a little bit.
Just prop yourself
Yeah.
up on this side.
Yep. And then I just kind of sit there and wait to see what happens next.
And Elladan goes and sits by Orlo on one of the few working chairs. Starts drinking his whatever the old man gave him.
It's, from what you can tell, it's kind of some kind of mead.
I kind of look at that questioningly, like thinking to myself, I can't believe you're gonna just drink something that some random person in a new world gave you.
Laya's gonna like grab both hers and Orlo's and kind of like sniff it as she's walking over to sit with them, and she'll just plop down like right in the middle of them.
As you sniff it, it's very strong. It smells it's almost bitter, but you can definitely smell that it has some kind of like, you're not sure what exactly, but some kind of spices or something that kind of give it a little bit of a not a terrible smell, but the smell of rubbing alcohol is very overpowering.
So
And Elladan tells the both of them, "Go ahead and try it. It's not the worst I've had."
she's just gonna like look up at him for a second and be like, "You enjoy drinking this?"
Yes.
And she's gonna give it like another testing sniff and like very like basically like a child who doesn't want to eat a vegetable, like just very slowly tips up into her mouth.
I just kind of Orlo just shakes his head back and forth and pulls out his own water and kind of just takes a sip off of that.
Yeah. Okay. Then Elladan slowly just grabs Orlo's mug and just like shifts it over to him.
I just kind of shrug and shake my head.
You see the old man kind of just sitting there for a moment and kind of just very, very gently sipping on his as well. He kind of looks between the three of you and just kind of shakes his head and runs his hand across his face and is just, I'm very sorry. I wish there was more that I could offer you at the moment, but unfortunately, this is some of the best that there is to offer at the moment.
Orlo just kind of mutters under his breath and is just like, if there was more to offer, I still don't know that I would take it.
And Elladan, between gulps of mead, says, "It's actually pretty good, thank you."
Laya's gonna like look up at Orlo, like almost looks very offended because she, being raised by nobles, she was raised very prim and proper, and she's just like taken aback by the manners, but she doesn't really say anything because of the last time that Orlo snapped at her. So she's just like, and then just like kind of shakes her head a little and goes back to sipping her mead. And she's also trying very hard to like keep a straight face and not like cringe at the taste of it.
And then I just kind of lean over to Elladan and I'm like, I wonder how Flo's doing.
Can he even drink mead?
I don't know. Should one of us take him some?
I think so. I feel like it'd be rude not to.
Should we make Leah do it?
That's probably for the best.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. And she's gonna kind of like poke you in the side a little bit. It's pronounced Laya.
Is it because you're a liar?
How dare you?
Orlo just kind of shakes his head and is like, Laya, would you be so kind as to take Flo a little bit of mead just in case he's thirsty and can drink mead?
I would be honored, thank you. And she'll just like kind of indignantly like push up from the table and like she just like saunters over to the counter to grab another one. And like without even asking where she's going, she's just gonna go try to find him because she's so mad.
So the old man just kind of sits there and just watches all of this, and you see him just kind of like side-eyeing all of you, and just like he's kind of just staring at his drink, not really looking up much. But you can see every now and then you'll catch his glance, and he's just every now and then you'll also hear just a
What have I done?
So, Laya, go ahead and do you remember where Flo was?
He was gonna go up to whatever kind of parapets they have, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and give me a survival check.
That's not gonna be good. But let's go. Oh, I got a 17.
So, it's not a very big town, but you very, very easily kind of make your way out the door and up to where Flo is. You find the staircase very easily. It's not very hard to find. So you've been in a few keeps and castles in your day. It's set up pretty similarly. So you make your way up, and you see Flo just kind of standing up there, and I presume just staring out into.
Yes, Flo will be out there standing on the keep, and he's actually got his hands, both hands on his side. He's, assuming old time military stance, and he's actually staring at the guard. Would it be on the opposite side of town, the guard that let us in the gate?
Yeah. So if you're looking at that little picture I sent earlier, you guys came in from the left side.
Mhm.
So you'd be kind of that's where that guard would be that you came in. And
Okay.
you're standing obviously on top of the big keep building that's in there.
Okay. Yeah, he's going to be staring at that guard and keeping watch over him. Can I see what this guard is doing? Obviously not like small details, but
Go ahead and give me a perception check.
I see everything. It's a 22. It's
Okay.
not 20.
Nice. So you said it's a 22?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see pretty well that he's just pacing back and forth a little bit. He'll occasionally stop and so just kind of doing one of these numbers where he's just kind of like doing his best to look around and see what he can see. They'll occasionally turn back into town and look just to see if anything's going on inside, but he knows that his job's kind of to focus on the perimeter, make sure nothing approaches, and he seems to be doing a pretty good job of that from what you can tell.
I'm gonna go fight
Whoa.
him.
Did you say that out loud? Like, did
No.
Laya hear that?
No. He's actually gonna. He actually turns because that's the thought in his head, and he turns and then he sees Laya, and then he stops. Oh, I wasn't expecting you to join me up here. Is everything all right downstairs?
Oh, just those two assholes really annoying me. But I thought I might bring you some mead. We weren't sure if you could drink it or not, but I thought you might like some.
I am not required to eat, but I appreciate the camaraderie. And he will extend his hand and take the meat anyway. He'll look at it and he'll drink it. He'll drink it. Uh, and he'll hand it back to her. My thanks.
No problem. How's it going up here?
It's quiet. And he'll look around. He looks around. But that guard,
The one
I'm,
with no name.
that would be the one.
What's
I'm
he
going
doing?
maintaining the perimeter as he should be, but your interaction with him earlier made me question his capabilities.
Oh, well, it's not abnormal for people to react that way to me. I mean, I am noble.
And Flo is just standing there staring at her. Obviously not having the same reaction at all.
And she's just gonna like kind of nod and like sip at her mead a little bit.
Well, since I take it you may not be joining the other two again, since you referred to them as, what was it again?
Arseholes.
Right. Uh, his his military he's trying to apply military discipline to the situation and he just doesn't know how. Uh, would you like to accompany me to train this guard?
Sure, that sounds lovely.
And he nods and he just begins marching, like actually marching his way down the stairs. That's what he's been doing. Anytime we've been walking, he's been marching.
And she's just gonna like very seriously, while also trying not to spill what's left of her mead, like try to mimic his march as she follows him.
And as they walk, he'll be like helping her fix her form and so they can do it in time. And that's what so we're gonna make our way over to that guard.
So after she spills about half of the meat that she does eventually start to get it. She's doing pretty well. So you guys make your way over, and you're kind of standing at the base of the gatehouse, and you can kind of just see up into it a little bit. You can kind of see his reflection or his silhouette as he walks back and forth.
He's going to look at Laya. Would you mind going up and taking his place and keeping watch?
You trust me to keep watch?
Good vote of confidence. I like it.
Character. I don't see any reason why not to. Besides, somebody has to keep watch.
I can certainly do it.
Can you also tell him to come down?
Of course. And so she'll like start making her way up there, making sure to like make noise to alert him that she's coming.
It's a ladder, just for reference.
Oh, cool. Then well then actually what she'll do is she'll just like throw back whatever's left in the bottle from her poor marching and place it gently on the ground and then climb up the ladder.
You said you're kind of trying to make a little bit of noise, yeah?
Yes.
So, ladders aren't particularly known to be extremely loud, especially wooden ones, but it's pretty quiet in the town, and there's not a whole lot of other sounds. So, he definitely kind of hears you and walks over towards the ladder, and he just kind of is standing there waiting, and he sees your head kind of pop up over the edge, and he kind of like almost stumbles backwards. Eh, um,
Hello.
Hi. What are you doing here? I thought can I help? Can I help you?
Well, actually, my companion over there, Flo, he would like me to keep watch for a moment, and he wanted to speak with you.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. That's fine. I'll just and he kind of like presses himself up against as much of the wall as he can to kind of like try to scoot past you. And he like reaches for the ladder, and um, you kind of hear his foot like scraping against it, trying to find it, and he almost falls down the ladder as he starts to climb down.
And she's gonna like try to reach out to like grab his arm or hand or whatever is easiest and be like, "Are you all right?"
Yeah, great, fine, thanks. And he's like very quickly kind of like pushes himself down the ladder.
And she's just gonna stand there like almost offended for a few seconds and then just kind of shake her head and then start taking her watch very, very seriously.
Go ahead and roll a perception check for me.
12.
Okay. You see the guard kind of make his way quickly down the ladder shin, and he turns and he sees you standing there, and he goes, you wanted to see me?"
And Flo is just standing there with his arms behind his back, looking at him silently. And he just takes a deep breath and exhales, and then he assumes a fighting position.
So explain to me, like you're actually going to like kind of square up with him.
Yeah.
Are you going to draw a weapon?
These are my weapons.
Okay. So he kind of like looks at you and kind of steps back a little bit, and he, can I help you with something? And you see him kind of like put his hand on his sword.
And Flo nods and he just says, "Good reaction." And he says, "I'm curious as to your capabilities to be able to defend this town."
I do appreciate the concern, but I have been doing this for quite some time, and we are still all here. And you currently are keeping me from my post, even though, yes, there is someone there. I would much prefer it be me.
We don't have a sense of time here, right?
It's kind of a little bit later in the evening. You can see that there is a moon.
Mhm.
There's actually two, but we'll get into that later. There is a moon, and it kind of where it sits in the sky would definitely give you an indication that it's probably maybe like mid-evening, like 8, 9 o'clock.
Just a small, quick test then.
Oh, okay, I suppose.
He just wants to see how the guard will defend himself. So he wants to run up and swing, but it's a feint.
Okay. So go ahead and make an attack roll.
Okay. It's an 8.
Okay. So you kind of you said it was a feint, but like you kind
Yeah.
of like go to swing, and he just very like easily just seems like he kind of just steps in the opposite direction,
Okay.
and as he does this, he goes, "I don't think that is a good idea. Please don't make me hurt you. I would rather not hurt his guests." So he's going to let go of his sword, and he's kind of gonna like swing a backhand at you, Shin,
Okay.
and that is like a 14.
Yeah, that does not hit.
Okay.
And
So
he's gonna like sidestep the same way that he did.
Okay.
Flo is just going to nod and stand at ease.
And he kind of just, you see him place his hand back on his sword and kind of step back a little bit.
And he's going to say, "Forgive my sudden rudeness and sudden desire to fight. This town, this outpost reminds me of my home. And I wanted to make sure that it was in good hands."
You see him kind of let out like a longer breath, and he nods and he goes, "I suppose I can forgive that." I don't know that I would try that on any of the other guards, though. They might not be so lenient.
You will do. If they have the character that you have and the capabilities that you do, then I am confident enough.
Well, then, I suppose I will return to my post.
Flo is just going to look up. "Liar, I finished."
You're just gonna hear like poke her head over the edge real quick. So she'll just like poke her head over. I can come down now.
And he just nods.
All right, on my way. And she'll like very deftly, or at least she'll attempt to very deftly just like slide down the ladder.
Go ahead and roll acrobatics.
Oh no.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Will you now?
We'll see.
I got an 8.
You kind of like you jump off the side and like start to slide a little bit, but like your momentum only carries you like a little bit, so you just kind of like are holding on and just stop.
Flo just looks up at her.
Oh no. And how far up off the ground is she?
Like probably still 3/4 of the way up the ladder.
How tall is the ladder?
Probably about 8, 9 feet. So you're probably a good 7 feet, 7 feet off the ground.
Okay, she's gonna jump off.
Okay. Roll another acrobatics check. Or athletics, actually. Either one.
Oh god, okay. It's a 17.
Okay. Athletics or acrobatics?
Acrobatics.
Okay. So you slide half the way down, like a little bit all the way down, and you just kind of push yourself off and, very easily kind of like land and do a little bit of a, like a roll to kind of keep your balance. You're perfectly fine. So you kind of recover in the end.
And she's just gonna look at the still unnamed guard and be like, "It's all you now."
Thank you. And he kind of like gives you a little bit more of like a bow as best he can, and kind of like works his way over to the ladder and starts to climb up. And he kind of looks back down at you guys before he turns back and says, just probably would get yourselves inside. It looks like it might storm.
And Flo just nods and turns back towards the keep.
And Laya just like starts marching behind him again. Hopefully better this time.
Yes.
Back in the like place with the all the other guards or whatever, and the chairs and the fireplace, I just like kind of lean over to Elladan. I'm like, he has been gone for a very long time.
I'll go ahead and reply back. Yeah, she has been. You think she's okay?
I haven't heard anything, so I think she's fine. So, and then just kind of like keeps munching on some of those berries.
So Flo will make his way back to the keep, and he'll turn to Laya and say, where is everyone stationed?
Well, when I left those other two, they were in, I believe that gentleman called it the community hall. They were in there having Elladan was drinking, and Orlo was eating berries and being very rude.
And Flo's just gonna nod.
Would you like me to show you?
Yes, please.
It was right this way. And she's gonna like this time be leading him, but she's gonna try to like showcase how good her march is getting as she's leading him in there.
And he will follow behind.
So as you guys walk back in, everybody's still kind of mostly sitting in the same positions. And this is probably just a few moments after you commented about where Laya had been, that she kind of just marches through the door, literally.
Orlo just kind of looks over and like elbows Elladan and like kind of points over at the door.
And Elladan starts drinking a little bit faster.
The old man kind of sitting at the table just kind of looks back at you guys. And he kind of shifts himself over a little bit, and he slides another one of the chairs over for Flo to sit down at, since the one you were already sitting at, Laya, is still there.
And she'll grab the chair that she was sitting in between Elladan and Orlo, and pull it over to Flo's chair.
He extends his arm for your glass.
Me?
And asks if you would like some more, Laya.
Sure, and that would be lovely. Thank you.
He takes it and fills it back up and slides it back across to you. And he looks at Flo, and he notices that the glass is not there. Like he's not carrying it anymore. And he goes, would you I thought you took one. Would you like a drink?
He looks down. I forgot the cup out top of the keep. I went to go talk to the guard.
Is that fruitful, I suppose?
Yes, it's instilled much confidence in the defense of this town.
Good.
Well, talking's one word for it, isn't it? And she's gonna take another sip of mead.
And he kind of like looks at her and then kind of glances back at Flo. Is there something that I should be worried about?
We conversed in the truest sense that a warrior can.
Elladan's gonna lean over to Orlo and say, "Do you think he actually fought someone up there?"
I just kind of shake my head and it's just like, and just shake my head and shrug and just keep munching berries.
And Laya's gonna be like worried that she just got Flo in trouble, so she's just gonna like quickly try to change the subject and be like, "But he did teach me how to march. I learned the proper form and everything."
And Flo's gonna nod. Indeed, your marching is quite impeccable.
Thank you.
He's going to look to the old man. The guard has informed me that it is going to storm soon. I do not know what that entails for this world.
Usually it is just a dust storm.
Elladan's gonna look over at Laya and say, "Can you give us a marching demonstration?"
She's gonna like slowly set down her goblet. Are you making fun of me?
No, not at all.
Then I'd be delighted.
Flo is just going to look between Elladan, Laya, and then Orlo.
And she just like pops up out of her chair and starts marching around the room.
It is actually quite good.
Orlo just kind of quietly whispers to Elladan, "Why do you do this to us?"
Elladan just starts giggling.
Do I hear this? Can I make a perception check?
I mean, you're sitting right there. You would definitely hear him giggling.
Oh, okay.
Can I make a perception check to figure out how drunk Elladan is?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Then Elladan, would you please roll a Constitution saving throw for me?
Constitution.
I rolled a 12.
I rolled a 21.
Okay. He actually seems like he's pretty good.
Like saucy or
No, he just
sober?
seems like he's pretty sober. He seems like he's having a good time, but not. His eyes aren't glossy. He's not.
I note that he doesn't need to be drunk to act like this.
Flo is just going to look between the two of them. And he's just going to say, are there any things that we need to talk about?
I would ask, what do you want to talk about?
We've all been assembled quite randomly. We are perhaps the most haphazard platoon I've ever seen.
And Laya's gonna like finish her marching and plop back down. What's haphazard mean?
We were randomly and hastily assembled.
Well, obviously this man needs help.
And a willingness to help doesn't always equate to a unified team. And I can already establish from how you came up to greet me that we might need to get that underway.
She's just gonna like innocently smile at him. I don't know what you mean, sir.
I think we should take this opportunity to get to know one another and perhaps grow somehow, maybe, to being some semblance of a unit.
Just Orlo's just over there nodding, like, kind of speaks up and says, "You know what? That's the first thing that's made sense to me all day."
And he's just going to look around and he's going to say, "Are there any concerns of party members that anyone has?"
I mean, we definitely should establish some sort of order within the party. That's for sure. Don't look at me to do it.
Flows.
The robot's the military man, not me.
And he's going to nod. Very well then. Although I don't see why anyone in particular has to be in command. Just as long as we're all on the same page.
I agree with Flo.
I agree with Flo.
That's fine with me. I'm just used to a sense of hierarchy and order when I'm with a group. And it's been a long time since I've been with a group.
Well, that's a shocker.
Flo doesn't respond to that.
And he's just going to look at Elia. Is there anything that you want to say?
These two have been nothing but rude to me since we met.
And this is the concerns I was talking about.
Just because I am 18 does not mean I need to be treated like a child.
Elladan looks up, puts his meat down, and says, "Let's just say you're a little bit more charismatic than most of the people we're used to."
Well, I
just
had to be. I was raised by nobles.
And then Elladan's going to look over at Orlo and say, "That explains a lot."
And Orlo just kind of mutters, "That's definitely obvious."
She's just gonna like take a very dignified stance at her in her seat and primly sip her mead.
Flo is just going to his mouth is just agape a little bit, and you just hear a sigh come from
So, Flo, how do you suggest we all get on the same page?
Well, it's common practice to bond over stories of one's origins, or so I have learned. So, we have the setting. We have the drinks, or rather, you all do. I suppose sharing a little about each other would help. I believe we already heard portion of Laya's story. Elladan, you've been the most quiet of our group. Is there
Yes, I
anything
have.
is there anything or any concerns that you would like to share?
I don't really have any concerns as long as we can get the job done. If bonding makes you guys feel better, that's fine, but it's not a requirement for me to do my work.
Do you have anything you would like to share with us? A morsel, maybe?
Elladan just starts looking a little uncomfortable and says, "I'm not too comfortable sharing too much about my past yet, but all you guys can really know about me is I was abandoned by my parents at a young age."
Orlo
Elia's
just
gonna kind of like look at him and then look back down at her mead and sip.
Orlo just kind of like looks down solemnly, like understanding where Elladan's coming from. Orlo speaks up finally, and after a few moments is just like, I mentioned it was a long time since I've been with a group. I haven't had a tribe in a very long time. And I don't want to get into details right now, but it feels good to be back in a group.
Were all of us abandoned as children?
I wouldn't necessarily say abandoned.
In a matter of terms, I was decommissioned and left in a ruin after the Great War.
I don't remember my birth parents. They abandoned me for being so. And she'll like pause and clear her throat for a second. Different, shall we say?
We have a group of villains.
Elladan will look up at Lai and say, "What's different about you? You seem normal to me."
And she'll kind of sigh a little and, well, if Flo thinks it's necessary for bonding. So she pushes away from the table, takes a deep breath, and closes her eyes. And her skin and hair both turn completely sheet white with like very little facial features, nothing. And when she opens her eyes, they're just black.
And Flo is just going to nod.
And then she'll quickly change back and like sigh heavily and like sit back down and head down, just like sipping her drink.
Elladan's going to look up at her and say, "There's nothing wrong with that, but seeing how nobles can be, definitely can see how they would have done what they did to you."
Orlo, since he's usually kind of on his own, is kind of just like looks at Laya and is just like, "What was that?"
It's called a changeling, or so I'm told. It's a different race that can mimic other races, and so when my parents found out that I was a changeling and not a human, they kicked me out.
Orlo just like kind of silently nods.
And you see the old man, he kind of pauses for a moment and just kind of waits to kind of let you settle back a little bit. But he kind of meets your gaze, and this is kind of the first time that he has kind of done that with you. And just kind of like pats your hand a little bit.
He pats my hand?
Yes.
Oh. And she's just gonna smile at him and continue sipping on her mead.
And then do me a favor and roll a perception check for me.
13.
And he kind of waits for a moment to see if any of you are going to continue. I think that was all of you, though, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he just kind of readjusts himself in his seat, and I think that was a fantastic idea, and I think that I have chosen the group of you very well to this point, and I am excited to see what it is that you do. But he kind of looks up, and you can kind of hear the wind and stuff howling outside as it's blowing through. I feel like it is getting late, and we are all due some, much needed rest at this point. So, if there's nothing else, he kind of pushes himself up from the table. I will be taking my leave, and you all are welcome to either stay here or make your way over to the keep. There is plenty of room in both places, as you can tell.
Orlo just kind of goes over into, like, gets up off of the chair and walks over to one of the walls and just kind of sits down and puts his back up against the wall and leans his head down.
Wait, how come I'm the only one who had to share a story?
Flo is just lost in his own thoughts. He's just staring at the table. In his mind, he's because it really isn't that long ago for him. He's having flashbacks to the last Great War, like all this talk about being a unit and the guard and defending the town. Like he's reliving his life through all of this. So he's just staring at the table.
And Orlo just kind of mutters under his breath from over along the wall and is just like, and just says, "Nobody told you you had to."
Elladan looks up at Laya and just says, "There are some things that people keep to themselves and don't want to share."
She's just gonna be like looking very uncomfortable that she just shared like her deepest, what she considers her deepest, darkest secret, and like just like her arms are gonna be crossed and she's just like sitting staring down at her mead.
And as he's lost in his thoughts and he's thinking, he's just going to say, unfortunately, there's not much for me to share other than the war and the village in which I live. There has not been much to my life. In terms of human years, I am only 20 years old.
Orlo just says, just kind of in response to what Laya was saying, is just like, kind of says, "Some things take time," and just kind of starts to doze off.
And Flo is just going to look over to her. I'm glad that you shared, though. And he's going to stand up and go back up towards the parapet. Not outside, but I'm sure like there's windows that he can see out of. Yes. And he's going to engage in his sentry rest there.
And Lyle just like slink off into a corner and pull out her journal and start scribbling in her journal.
I'm probably going to be sleeping.
Okay. You're just going to kind of curl up and...
Yep.
Okay.
And right before he goes to sleep, Orlo says, "I'm surprised he's not going to drink all night."
So the old man kind of heads out as you guys are all kind of finding your places for the evening, and he just looks back and says, "I'll be back in the morning, so take your rest. You deserve it." And he kind of opens the door, and you kind of hear the wind like whip the door open and closes it behind him.